Every morning, as the sun began to peek over the horizon, the beggar would shuffle toward the busy marketplace with his bowl clutched tightly in his hands. His clothes were nothing more than tattered rags, worn thin by years of hardship and neglect. The soles of his shoes were almost entirely gone, leaving his feet raw and blistered from the rough cobblestones beneath him. He had been sitting in the same spot for years, day after day, repeating the same ritual, and yet nothing in his life seemed to change. People passed him without a second glance, some giving hurried coins, others completely ignoring him. When someone did drop a coin into his bowl, he would pick it up with trembling fingers, staring at it as if it were the only thing keeping him alive. Still, it never felt like enough. In his mind, he was trapped in a cage of poverty that seemed impossible to escape. He muttered the same words each day. I am poor, I have nothing, someone please give me a coin. The repetition had become almost automatic, a mantra of defeat that had seeped into every corner of his life. The beggar's world was small and colorless. He rarely spoke to anyone, not because he didn't want to, but because he had convinced himself that no one cared. Children would run past, laughing and playing, their mothers tugging at their hands, and he would watch silently, imagining a life that seemed so far away from his own. In the evenings, he would return to a makeshift shelter, a cardboard box tucked in the corner of a deserted alley, and stare at the few possessions he had. A threadbare blanket, a chipped bowl, and a worn-out book whose pages had long since turned yellow. He had long ago stopped dreaming of a better life, believing that he was destined to endure the same fate forever. But life, as it often does, has a way of shifting in unexpected ways. One morning, as he sat in his usual spot, hunched over and weary, an old man approached him. His clothes were simple, but clean and neat, and his eyes shone with warmth and wisdom. He looked at the beggar for a moment and then said, in a voice both gentle and firm, "Change your words, and you will change your life. Stop asking with misery, speak with gratitude." The beggar blinked in surprise, unsure of what the man meant. "Gratitude," he whispered, almost to himself. "What good would gratitude do me? I have nothing to be grateful for." The old man smiled, shaking his head slightly. "Gratitude is not about what you have. It is about the way you see the world. Poverty begins in the mind. If you continue to believe that you are poor, then poverty will always follow you. But if you start seeing even the smallest kindness as a gift, then doors you never imagined will begin to open." That night, the beggar lay in his cardboard shelter thinking about the man's words. They stirred something inside him, a tiny flicker of hope that had been buried under years of despair. For the first time in as long as he could remember, he wondered what might happen if he changed the way he spoke and thought. Could it really make a difference? The idea seemed almost absurd, yet he could not shake the old man's words from his mind. The next morning, he returned to his spot in the marketplace, but this time he did something different. He straightened his back, lifted his chin, and smiled at the first person who walked by. When someone dropped a coin into his bowl, he looked up, met their eyes, and said, "Thank you for your kindness. May your wealth grow as you help me." People were taken aback at first. They were not used to a beggar thanking them so sincerely. There was no pleading, no despair, only warmth and appreciation. And slowly, as the hours passed, more people began to stop. Some gave coins, others small gifts, and some even paused to speak with him for a few moments. The beggar felt a strange new emotion, connection. For the first time, he realized that people did not only give out of pity, they gave because they were touched by his gratitude. Days turned into weeks, and with each passing day, his life began to shift in subtle but powerful ways. He saved a few coins here and there, enough to buy better clothes, food that was more nourishing, and even a small stall where he could sell simple handmade items. The marketplace, once a place of endless struggle and humiliation, had become a space of opportunity and possibility. His neighbors and fellow merchants began to recognize him, greet him, and even offer help in ways he had never experienced before. The transformation was not just external. Inside, he felt a profound sense of liberation. The heavy weight of despair that had clung to him for so long began to lift. He began to speak positively about himself, no longer muttering words of defeat. Instead of saying, "I have nothing," he would say, "I am thankful for what I have and open to what is coming." The change in his mindset created a ripple effect, altering not only how he perceived the world but also how the world perceived him. He remembered the old man's words and began to share them with others. He would tell people, "It is not the coin in your hand that changes your life, but the way you see the world." Gratitude opens doors that despair can never unlock. People listened, some with skepticism, others with curiosity, and a few with the kind of realization that sparks action. Slowly, the beggar, now a man of new hope and purpose, became a symbol in the marketplace of what it meant to live with gratitude and a positive mindset. The years passed, and his humble stall grew into a small business. He could now afford a modest home, proper food, and even some education for the children of the neighborhood. Yet, he never forgot the lessons he had learned on that fateful morning when the old man spoke to him. Every day, he would remind himself and others that the power to change one's life begins not with wealth or opportunity, but with a shift in mindset. Sometimes, in quiet moments, he would look back on the long years of struggle and feel a mixture of sorrow and gratitude. Sorrow for the years wasted in despair, but gratitude for the lesson that had come just in time to change his destiny. He realized that life had always offered him choices, he simply had to open his eyes to see them. The marketplace, once a place of rejection and invisibility, had become a stage of transformation. Children laughed nearby, women carried their baskets of goods, merchants called out their wares, and he, once a beggar, now walked among them as a man who had discovered the extraordinary power of gratitude and positive thinking. Each coin given to him was no longer a symbol of pity but a token of human connection, a reminder that generosity and kindness exist everywhere, sometimes waiting only for the right mindset to recognize them. In the end, the beggar understood a truth that many spend their entire lives searching for: that change is never external alone. It begins within. The world does not owe anyone a living, but it does respond to the energy one brings into it. Desperation closes doors, while gratitude opens them. Hopelessness isolates, while positivity invites connection. And so, every day, he would sit at the edge of the marketplace, not merely as a merchant or a man who once begged, but as a living testament to the idea that life can transform when the mind chooses to see opportunity instead of limitation. People who once ignored him now sought his advice. Children would gather around, asking him questions about life, and he would always answer, with the same words the old man had spoken to him so many years ago: "Change your words, change your thoughts, and life will change." Begin with gratitude, and you will see doors open that you never imagined. The beggar had become more than just a man who had survived poverty. He had become a man who had mastered the art of living with purpose, hope, and gratitude. And in doing so, he discovered the greatest treasure of all, that the power to change one's life was never in the coins of the world, but in the thoughts and words that shape the mind. He had become a man who had mastered the art of living with purpose, hope, and gratitude. And in doing so, he discovered the greatest treasure of all, that the power to change one's life was never in the coins of the world, but in the thoughts and words that shape the mind.